Before I launched our presidential campaign bid, as very typical of me, I had sat down to analyze the challenges facing our country and came up with a 5-point policy program, which in a broad caption, the unity of our country has been threatened. So I said, number one, we need to restore the unity of our country and give each and every part of this country a sense of belonging in our federation. From unity, I moved to the issue of insecurity. We need to secure our country first. There is no geopolitical zone in this country that has no security or insecurity challenge. Every zone in this country, there is no exception. Thirdly, I moved to the issue of economy. It's only when you have a country, a united country, when you have peace, and then you begin to think about the economy. And the economy is such a very vast area. Youth, unemployment, inflation, so many things under economy. And then, of course, I moved to the issue of restructuring. For anybody who has followed up my political career will know that I had started advocating for restructuring since we were in office, when it was very, very unpopular, particularly in my own constituency in the northern part of this country. I still went ahead because it is something that I believe will bring more unity to this country and give every part of this country the opportunity to develop at its pace and with its own resources. And then, of course, I moved on to the issue of education, which is too dear to my mind because of my belief in education is so important in all our human endeavor. All these things we are talking about, we will not be able to achieve them without education. So basically, education, in fact, should be number one. And all of us would not have been in this hall if we were not educated. Would we? No. So you can see the imperative of education in our lifetime. So after I came up with these 5 broad policy options, I then looked around and said, okay, let me see if I can assemble a team of experts on one of each of these thematic subjects. And then I constituted what I call a policy group and said, okay, you can go into details. How do we achieve our objectives? I had a number of sessions with the policy team, as I normally want to do. I want to speak up my mind. I want to tell them what I'm looking forward to, and so on and so forth. And because they are experts, they will be able to advise me and tell me this is doable, this is not doable, and so on and so forth. And eventually we came up with a document which is titled My Covenant with Nigerians. I really thank you very, very much indeed for finding time to come. I know many of you live in various parts of Lagos. I have lived in Lagos since 1969, married in Lagos. I was here when all the roads and the bridges, the flyovers were built in my presence. There is no part of Lagos I have not lived. First of all, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Aguda, Ikorodu Road, Antony Village. So I saw Lagos being built from the old Carter Bridge. When I tell people that we used to trek from Victoria Island to number 1 Brickfield Road, Ebute Metta, on foot, to attend to classes of our training, and then go back on foot. So I must let you understand I'm a Lagosian.
Your Excellency, my name is Ambrose Oko from Channels TV. My question is on the economy. Most people here are barely able to fend for themselves and their family today. So what would you do differently to return the economy back to what it used to be in the 60s? What's your blueprint for the economy, Your Excellency?
Basically, I intend to continue with the economic policies we embarked on between 1999 and 2007. Liberalize the economy, promote the private sector to create jobs and wealth in simple, straightforward terms. Is broad. Liberalizing the economy is broad, empowering the private sector is broad, and of course continue with privatization of our public enterprises. In other words, more private sector driven economy. If you look at the greatest economies in the world, you find that government has very, very little to do with their economy. They allow the private sector to play its role. And you can see the prosperity and the development that the private sector has unleashed in their greatness. If you see the amount of work that government has to do in this country, like say, building and rebuilding our ports, constructing our railway lines, building our highways, the amount of money, let me borrow Dr. Pessy's word, humongous amount of money that you require. You know that the government doesn't have it. I would rather concession most of this to the private sector and give them tax breaks. They invest, recover their money, and we will have development, and we will have progress, we will have jobs, and we will have prosperity. This is going to be my approach.
My name is Isaac Ibore, former editor-in-chief of the News Agency of Nigeria. You are known as the unifier. But the way things stand right now, Nigerians are not that united. I'd like to know what plans you have to ensure that Nigerians see themselves as one, and in such a manner that whenever they introduce themselves, they don't talk about religion, they don't talk about their religions. Instead, they identify themselves as Nigerians.
PDP will form a government of national unity. We will bring other members of the opposition who would have lost. And then, of course, we move on from there. So this is one only ways to unify this country. And then we now begin to move. Today, we have 17 heads of the various security agencies. All of them came from the north. I won't do that. I will make sure that every geopolitical zone is represented in those security outfits. This is also another way you can unify the country and give every part of this country a sense of belonging.
2019, before the general election, you said something about security, about American University in Yola, that you got a retired general from US who fought in Afghanistan or Iraq, and they gave you a blueprint to secure the place. Now, we know many of these guys in Nigeria are terrorists and they are from outside the country. How do you want to secure this country from 2023? Thank you, sir.
We faced the same problem when we came in 1999. More boots on the ground, more equipment, more training. Even by the time you double the strength of the Nigeria police force, maybe you will be talking about 700,000 or so. First of all, by putting more boots on the ground, you would have reduced unemployment. So, if you extend that, operation to the armed forces, so by the time you finish doing that, you find that you would have taken out more than 1 million people out of the unemployment market. Most of our population today, 70% are young men and women. And then, regrettably, our schools no longer teach the history of this country. So unless you do an extensive research, which our young men and women are not, at the moment, not too good in, you will not recognize that our government had the highest, the PDP government has the highest number of women in our government. This we promise, and I pledge to continue with that.
My question is on restructuring. And I would like, His Excellency, to be very specific. You have been drumming restructuring as one of the things that you're going to do in this country. It's a complex country. Your restructuring, is it according to states? Are you going to allow states or regions to control their resources? Is it going to be in the form of the whole republic where the regions control resources and pay royalty to the center?
Restructuring, what type? Are we going to have resource control? Very, very typical of me, as I said. I had assembled a team of constitutional lawyers from each of the geopolitical zones. I told them, give me a proposal of legislation which I can immediately put before the National Assembly on day one after taking office. I already have a copy of the draft legislation, but I cannot share it with you. Paul has a copy. I want you to know and realize that amending the Constitution requires the executive, National Assembly, and the state assemblies. So we all have to agree on what type of restructuring. Of course, when we say devolution of powers, obviously devolution of powers must go hand in hand with also a certain measure of resource control. So it is just logical for you. If your interest is only resource control, whoever asked the question, for sure you will have a measure of resource control depending on, of course, the powers that will be devolved to your either state or local government.
On behalf of our principal and the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, we say a very big thank you to the Nigerian Guild of Editors, not only for yielding this platform to our candidate for him to share with you and give you some more insights as to how we, because it's a teamwork, intend, by the grace of God, to run our dear country, but also for all of the support you've been given to the development of democracy and entrenchment of democratic culture in Nigeria. Our democracy couldn't have gotten to where it is today without that very pivotal role you've played and you keep playing till today. You are indeed partners on this journey, and we appeal that as we progress into more intense issues of campaigns, we see more of balanced reporting on all of the sides that are contending to the most coveted office of this country and all of other offices that are up for competition and contest. Rest assured that Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar is prepared and ready from day one to hit the ground running when he assumes office as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He will be hands-on. Nigeria will be in care of steady hands, and I'm sure you must have appreciated his intellect and his capacity. His experience as a public servant is very well known to you. His experience as someone who is a major player in the private sector is also very well known to you. On this note, once again, we thank you very much, and we pray that God Almighty shall continue to guide us and guide our country, and may He grant us victory at the end of it all. Thank you very much.